Yeah,
Really thinking.
I don't like anybody, so
Oh, you don't.
I don't think there's anybody we're voting for this year. I'm pretty upset about the situation.
We are recording, so we're ready to begin when you are.
Okay. I guess the commission will call a member roll call.
John Morrison.
Here.
Teresa Peller.
Here,
Joe Martin.
Here.
Lynn Christensen.
Here,
Nick Jamison.
Yes.
Alan Hughes. Bree Fry. And then
Okay. We're going to go through to approve the current agenda.
make a motion to approve it.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, we got that taken care of. Going to new business. Discussion and decision on recommended amendments to zoning ordinance chapter 26.
To approve the minutes.
Did I blow by the previous?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. Approved minutes for the previous meeting.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second. Okay, that's done. Now we'll move into new business. Discussion and decision on recommended amendments to zoning ordinance chapter 27.
Thank you, everyone. So this is a follow-up from work that you just all completed on the future land use plan. Policy number 6 under goal 4 of this was for the county to review those zoning regulations, more specifically to complete a comprehensive review and update to the corridor overlay district to ensure that the regulations meet the needs and goals of the county. And so I sent you the staff report and a red line version of chapter 27. And just to discuss the overlay district for a minute, the overlay piece of that is exactly what it sounds like. You have your base zoning district, which was the highway commercial in that area. And then what was established to add on top of those regulations was the corridor overlay district. That corridor overlay district, when you read through chapter 27 and the criteria that were written into that, it really surpassed what zoning regulations should be and went into design standards for that. And it was somewhat convoluted piece. The county's had it in place for a number of years, right? And with these different ordinances, one of the things you try, you put it into place, and after a few years, you look to see, well, did we do the right thing or did we not do the right thing? This somewhat kind of got just left hanging out there. And in that I-29 Highway 34 corridor, you know, you had a few things pop up that were able to meet the criteria within that corridor overlay district, but not as much as what you would have thought you would have seen. And within the corridor overlay districts, there was requirements in there for bike trails to be placed. There was requirements in there for sidewalks to be put in there. Transportation modes that you're just not going to see in a rural setting such as that was. I mean, if you were right on that, you know, on the edge of a community and you wanted to tie those things into it, that would have been a great thing to have added in there. And just in the time that I've been down here with Mills County and the developers that I've talked to looking in that corridor overlay district, it is really hard to guide them through the process of the initial step for them was to submit a site plan to our office to notify our office that they were going to send a site plan. Then they would send the site plan. We would then have 60 days to really review that site plan to make sure that it met all of the criteria within the corridor overlay district. And then after that, then they would submit a full set of plans to go along with the project. You know, so by the time you got done, you could be 90 to 100 days out on a project that they needed to get done and started within 60 days. So those criteria within that were really just, it was too strong for the area at which we're in right now for Mills County. And so what I had done with chapter 27 was to really go through there and delete out the corridor overlay district and to revert it back to the highway, just highway commercial in that area. The county's zoning ordinance also already addresses signage in those districts. It was amplified within the corridor overlay district. We have building codes that will help with the building design and guidelines of it. I don't think we necessarily need to know or be critiquing the exterior components that builders want to use for their projects. I think, if they're coming into a project, they're going to know that the building, what they want it to look like and fit in that area. And also we have landscaping requirements as well, buffers and all of those pieces are still lined out within the zoning ordinance. We're still meeting the intentions of what we wanted to do. We're just taking out that extra design criteria that was placed upon this area at that time. So part of what the corridor overlay district also addressed was land uses from the highway commercial, and it had accepted out 5 permitted uses, and that was livestock sales, primary education, religious assembly, funeral services, large alternative energy production devices, and it had accepted out also 5 conditional uses, which was residential uses, detention facilities, recycling processing, construction batch plants, and landfills. So some of those pieces in there would have already been somewhat just by the landscape of what it is. Nobody's going to build something like that in there. I would probably venture to say we would be pretty hard pressed as a county to say that you couldn't build a religious assembly there if you wanted to. The courts get pretty strong in their language towards any jurisdiction trying to withhold a religious assembly of some kind. And, in areas that around there, there are companies already looking at the large alternative energy production areas. There's solar that's looking in that area down there that will end up happening. Residential uses, you already see down in those areas as well. And they have that down there as a conditional use. Detention facilities, again, I think that's one that's ruled out based on the floodplain area and just flood events that we've had in the past. Same with the recycling, processing. Construction batch plants are things that you'll see come and go. As they come by and need to do construction process, construction, a batch plant might pop up. And I think just by your groundwater levels in that area, you've ruled out any kind of landfill that would potentially ever locate in there. The requirements are so strong on them from state and federal levels that you're just not going to see something like that even attempt to locate in an area like that. So in this chapter 27, if you like, we can kind of go through there and see the different pages, but that's what you have for you is with the pages that we deleted that out. Also with the ordinance process, if you've gone through there, I think Audra said John maybe had gone through there and found some correct spelling errors and just grammatical things like that. The ordinance process allows us to go through the entire code, and we do go back through and correct spelling things, but if you spot those and hand them in, we'll make sure that we get those addressed to us. It's always good to have more sets of eyes on a document before you post it online. So tonight, what we'd hope for then is to be able to have that recommendation for these changes to the Board of Supervisors. And then probably in about 3 weeks' time, this will be something that we present to the Board of Supervisors. And it'll go through 2 hearings with them, 2 public hearings with them. So you have first consideration, and then it'll come back again the next week for second consideration and adoption.
We don't have to do the third one then.
You don't have to do the third one because of the way we're going to publicize it. So we're going to publish in its entirety, we'll publish it in the paper. So your publication and public hearing take care of your first and second. So you do your 2 readings after that, then you're good. Anyone have any questions on it? Or feelings, one way or the other? These are just proposals.
Do you think there's gonna be any pushback on what, taking out the corridor overlay?
The individuals I talked to about it have all been saying that, yeah, it's something that's need to be done. I haven't heard anything negative about taking it out.
Now, did we shrink the size of the overlay any, or, you know, that's what we went through where the overlay was, it come down into a lot of farm ground and stuff. When we was doing the comprehensive plan, we had some farmers down in that area that was complaining about, why are we over here in this farming area? They weren't before, you know, nobody actually could tell us who designed, who drew up the area that it covered, you know.
And I don't know the history, the origins of the design of it, but during the future land use map, yes, there was a point in time at which the future land use of that area was, they did decrease it in that side based on what some of the farmers' opinions were on that. But, and then we expanded out the potential towards the hills on the other side.
Right.
So what that, on the future land use map, what that does then is if somebody comes in and asks for a zoning change, and we look at our future land use map and say, yes, that is what we had planned out for it, then you can change your zoning one step faster. You could still potentially come in and ask for a zoning change, even though it does not necessarily correlate with your future land use map. But the first part of that, you have to do, what you'd have to ask for then is an amendment to your future land use map. And then once you got the future land use map amended, then you can move forward with your zoning change on your property.
Okay.
So yeah, there was a lot of conversation during the land use plan about that map and shrinking and expanding sizes
There
out.
was a lot of the farmers down there said, my land was, nobody ever asked us if this land could be in this. And they was complaining to me, well, who set it up? I says, I have no idea. I said, I can't remember that far back when this was first laid up. Because when I first got on the board, they wanted something to protect the people out there. We come up with this, and here we are.
No, you're right. There was a lot of conversations about that map. Yep.
Does anybody have any discussion or any?
No, I know this was heavily discussed during the land planning meetings throughout that process.
Discussion.
Discussion, questions he's asking?
So then we make a recommendation.
So you can open up for public comment in case they have anything.
Oh, okay. So everybody in the public would like to comment? Now we can get to it.
Now you can
Is there anybody who'd like to make a recommendation?
I'll make that motion as presented.
Recommendation, zoning ordinance. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
You have a second? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Second motion carried.
Thank you. Lynn asked me for a quick update on things that we're seeing out here in Mills County, and so I started sending a monthly permitting report to the Board of Supervisors. For those of you who don't know, we recently brought environmental health into with the Building and Zoning Department. I think that's gonna help out with homeowners when they come in for their septic and well projects, or if you're building a new house and you gotta get a septic and well, you know, those permitting pieces are now combined together. And we know if we issued a permit for a new house, that there's a permit for septic and well. So I think it's gonna be a lot smoother for the residents, a lot smoother for us on our side of that. We are seeing a lot of new home permits. They're still really good size homes too. They are kind of reverting back to, I guess, what I always kind of like the later nineties maximum square footage houses. You know, it's not odd to see 5,000 square foot, 6,000 square foot houses coming through. And then we have had 2 to 3 different commercial projects, industrial projects that are, like I said, they're kind of lingering over this overlay district right now, struggling to get through. But so we'll see those permits, I believe, finally get wrapped up, and there's a trailer sales that's gonna go in down there. Beat Energy out of PJ is expanding on what they're doing. And there's a potential of a really good size project coming in on the north. It'll be around just north of the Bellevue interchange up there. Doesn't involve the Cattleman's deal at all, but it'll be a new major employer into the area. I don't know who they are yet, but I think everybody's pretty excited about that. And they have options on the ground now. So they've been to town 3 different times. They're real excited about the area and the availability of power and everything else that's right there for us. So I think that's gonna be a major win for Mills County when that ends up happening. So we will have, there's more documentations coming through on that part of it, which I think you all know I work for Potawatomi County as well. We have a joint land use study that we did with City of Council Bluffs. It covers the 3-mile area of Council Bluffs. State law, all of your communities, small, large, they have a 2-mile extraterritorial jurisdiction that surrounds them. And it's for subdivision purposes only. But you, as a county, you always work with your communities on what their land use plan types are, right? So that way you can plan ahead. So that we have signed a 28E with Council Bluffs because Council Bluffs is in a unique position to where they only really have a 180-degree ring around them because they side with a river. And they know that they're based on the hills, they can't grow in certain directions. So that 28E allows us as a county to not have to go through them for subdivisions in certain areas that they know they're not going to grow into. They'll never be able to put sewer and water there. So they're never going to annex. They're not going to do services and things like that. So as the county, we get to continue to divide up that land, however our ordinance works without their approvals on it. And then in other areas, you know, they allow us comments. We have 4 different development areas within there. There's city development area 1A, 1B, and maybe 1B2, and then the county development area. So Mills County will end up having to sign into that agreement with Council Bluffs as well. And they've already studied that area. They've already figured out what portion that they know that at some point in time they can grow into. So that'll be a city development area, but the rest of it will be a county development area. We've seen this happen before on the Potawatomi County side where Shelby's annexed into Potawatomi County. So it's not like it's something new for a community to annex into the next county around them. I always figure for us, it works out for Potawatomi County, right? Because we still get the tax base. We just don't necessarily have to we don't have to mess with it. The maintenance on those roads and things, because they have to take them in. We don't have to provide fire, sheriff service, all those things. So that'll be something new to Mills County. I think that if you know, if the city winds up annexing this area for this, because they need city services if they're going to be here. But that's probably the biggest thing. I think that's kind of lingering out there. But housing down here has really been amazing. I mean, it's outpacing what we see in Potawatomi County, probably 2 to 1, if not more, by the number of house permits that we see come through this office compared to what a good year for us up there in Pot County. You might get, you know, 25 to 35 houses. And down here, I mean, it's just every week there's more housing permits coming in. So I think it just shows, I mean, it's a great community. People like to be here. It's nice.
Are those housing permits in a particular area, or is it widespread in the county?
I think it's been pretty spread out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was, you see your times where your Lake Ohana ones come in and some of those lots up there filling up, but the rest of them have been pretty well spread around.
You were talking about the city taking over and stuff. Richard, maybe you can answer this, or maybe Tim. Where are we at with the water situation and
That's what I
all
was
that
gonna
stuff
ask
down on
too.
this
And that,
X overlay?
Turn that one off.
Is there something?
we've, Lonnie's been handling that where we've been looking at GMU and stuff and, you know, it's about, I'm just estimating, like for the cattlemen's and stuff, it would be a whole water line from the bay, I don't know whether they can hook on at the rest area, push water further north. They've talked about going up 195th Street because they would cover people that need water and it would help our development there. Sewer for the plant and stuff, if we would do that, would be about a 7-mile stretch back down to the rest area. They think the line would be big enough to carry it. They're not sure. They're doing a study on that part. So we have asked, Lonnie went with the cattlemen's group and some others and talked to the governor and some other people in economic development. They didn't tell us absolutely no, but they said we would work with you, you know, to try and get something done in that area. Back to the annexation, some of the maps and stuff we've had, I would say the Board of Supervisors is not happy with the way it's laid out, but we haven't got to a discussion point with anybody yet. So I'll leave it lay there.
That was kind of a big issue. You know, when we were talking about this whole thing and the water was kind of, it was big. Where's it gonna
Well,
come
the biggest problem is, once you get there with the line, you might supply water for all the entities that's there. But how do you loop it, or how do you connect it back to, so if something happens to this line, you're gonna shut all these facilities down that's up there, so, yeah, so, no.
Yeah, water and fire have really become major players in what kind of development we're gonna be able to support.
Because what was the discussion on the fire department? Was it more full-time people or what the heck was it?
I think the hope is, and maybe Richard can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at the state level, they're gonna hopefully do some legislation to be able to have, so the county would be able to support full-time fire and EMS out there. You know, the lieutenant governor has a project going on. It's like Rescue Iowa or something like that. It's modeled after a program in Israel where they train people in certain life, rescue skills. And then you get a bag with it, and then there's an app program that goes out. So when 911 sends out a message and it knows your phone is within such proximity to this person, then you would be the one that would get called over there to respond until the ambulance service gets out to you. And they pilot it in Cass County and a few others. They feel like it went really well. They're going to pilot it one more year, and then I think it's going to be on a individual basis to where the counties sign on to it. Maybe that will help drive some volunteerism towards the volunteer fire departments and things like that. But I think that's kind of the part where they're really struggling right
Well,
now.
it sounds pretty cool to have all this stuff coming in, but there's a lot of things that have to fall into place before you can even consider it. I mean, it's a lot of work. Is there any other business that we need to discuss? Nothing? Good. Well, do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion. Motion to adjourn. We have a second? I'll second. 3 seconds. So we're motion.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Sorry for wasting everybody's time. I've
No,
planned for
fine.
that.